All right, guys, this week we're going to talk about a career and a life lived right here in Idaho. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Time Studio right here in Clark Fork, Idaho. I have got a return guest for this week. In fact, it is he's an audience favorite from way back when the podcast first started a few years ago. So, welcome, Director Ed Schriever. How you doing?
Good, Jim. Thanks for having me back.
Did you know that you were, I don't know, like one of the first 10 guests I had on this show back when we started out?
I didn't know what number it was, and it was kind of early in your game, but you gotta give the shout out to the Idaho guy, to the hometown guy who's breaking into the market. So that was a fun interview 4 years ago.
That was a fun. I remember you gave my dog a hard time for being chubby, and I wanted to give you an update that he still doesn't miss a meal, and he's still pretty chubby.
Yeah, well, that's good. You're in a good place.
So we decided to do this, or I asked you to come on and do this because you are on the verge of retiring as director from Idaho Fish Game, and I thought it would be a good idea to kind of walk through what your career's been like, and I don't know how I feel about it. I'm not sure. I'm super excited about you retiring, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And 39 years is a long time. A year in the role of director is like living in dog years. So every year in this job is like 4 or 5 or 7 regular years. It's a fun job. I quote that phrase all the time. You do what you love and you won't work a day in your life. And it doesn't really feel like it's been work because my personal values are so aligned with the mission of the agency and all of that stuff. But this job does suck the wind out of you a little bit. And just after 39 years with the agency, I feel like I've pretty much accomplished those things that the commission asked me to do when they hired me on. And being director is kind of like staying with your in-laws, I think, Jim. You want to leave when they wish you would still stay a little bit longer, or you don't want to leave after they wish you'd have been gone, a while ago. So I think the timing's just right, and I can feel like I'm leaving the agency in a good position, and relationship with the commission is really good. There's always going to be issues in fish and wildlife, but I'm feeling pretty good about the timing of my retirement.
When you started with the Idaho Fish Game way back when, did you ever imagine that you would end up being the director of Idaho Fish Game?
Never in a million years, Jim. So great question. I was a young, aspiring guy just out of college, had a young family, and just felt tickled to be hired to be a fish culturist in Idaho in 1984, and had no aspiration. I thought my dream job was going to be a fisheries biologist, and I got to do that, and it was dream job. And then so I was a biologist and manager, fisheries manager in the Clearwater region for about 19 years. And man, that's the cat's meow, that was the job I always dreamed of as a kid. And then just had the opportunity to kind of jump into executive leadership and went to headquarters and was the chief of fisheries for 8 years and deputy director of operations for a couple. And then this chance, you really never know what this job's like. I don't think anyway until you're in it. But the ability to influence is pretty special. And I made a lot of really good friends among, the stakeholders in fish and wildlife conservation and management. And it's been a very, very cool deal for me.
I just can't imagine the changes. You said 1984. And you started up kind of in the neck of the woods where I'm living now, right? You're up here in the Clark Fork on that Cabinet Gorge Dam hatchery.
Yeah, that was actually my third job. So I started in extreme southeast Idaho at the Gracefish hatchery, and then I went to Hell's Canyon and worked actually in Oregon managing the Idaho Power's hatchery there below Oxbow Dam, and I was there almost a year. And then that Cabinet Gorge hatchery that you're living close to now was built. Washington Water Power, now Avista, built that to raise kokanee for Lake Pend Oreille, and I was selected to manage that facility. It was brand new, had not had a fish raised in it. It was Idaho's first hatchery to be supplied 100% by electric motor driven wells. And so, backup generators and all of that stuff. And it was an exciting ride there for the first year or so until we got some of the bugs ironed out. But yeah, those were great times.
So back in those days, how was what was winter like back then in this area?